And it doesn't matter if you're good at drawing, it's just better than talking. Do this design sprint for 3 weeks. It turns out the method isn't really meant to go for 3 weeks.
I just took it on the shoulder and walked
the pouring rain.
Yeah.
My father found out about industrial design and maybe you should look into this. It seems kind of fitting. Who really has the access to produce products?
I have the feeling that today's episode is going to be both relatable and helpful for a lot of you, because it is about 2 young designers that just recently graduated and now try to figure out what to do next, what to do with their career and life. And even though they might not be the biggest experts in design, at least for now, they have a lot of interesting things to share. For example, about their journey after graduating. And I can tell so from experience, because I studied with them. So I'm very happy to introduce to you Ben and Konrad from Common Tools and their life of design. Please enjoy.
I'm Ben Wesch. I'm 24 years old.
And I'm Konrad Freyer. We studied industrial design at the Muthesius together with you. We're all from the same semester, at least that's where we started in 2019. Yeah, we graduated last semester, the spring of 2023, like this year. And we have our bachelor's degree now in industrial design. And yeah, we're just kind of figuring out what's going to come next. We're not that sure yet. We still have to search for the right way, but the path till here was really interesting. We really enjoyed the bachelor's. And yeah, we're going to see what's going to come next.
You guys already alluded that you already graduated.
Right.
But that was like half a year ago. What did you do in the meantime?
Basically, right now feels like the first break or pause that we're getting since we started the bachelor's semester last fall. We started in October. We started work in October, the semester started in November, but from there on it was just like a grind that kept on running. And even after finishing or after graduating, there were the next projects coming up. So we just went on with the hustle, and now we're here.
What kind of projects did you do?
So right after we were invited by Martin Postler for the Milan show. Mm-hmm. So he asked me specifically if I wanted to participate in that exhibition. We both together kept on working on this project to make it even more a viable product, I would say, that it gets more real world use.
Because in the semester, in the bachelor semester, Ben and I, of course, we had our own projects, but we basically worked together for all the semester, together with Kavi Jamali. We were a little trio working together on 3 different projects, but helping each other out through all this time. Yeah. And we all kind of have part in the projects of the others. And so when Ben got invited to the exhibition in Milan, we did it together. And then instantly after graduating, there was maybe a week, maximum I would say a week, where we could kind of settle down and reorganize. But then we just started with the next project.
And what did you guys do there? What was the project?
It was really focused on local materials. So it was about collecting clay from the coast here in Kiel, because this topic of local resources that really surround us in abundance, and to give the materials that we are surrounded with the value. This was the focus of the project. So for the use of the ceramic objects that I was trying to make out of it, we figured to also use a local resource such as the rain here, because Kiel is really famous for that. It was a system to capture rainwater and make it accessible for users of the city.
And made out of the clay or out of the material found at the coast?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's cool.
That's basically how we started the semester. Martin Postler, our professor, he gave us the task to make a design sprint like before the semester even started. And usually like this method is like meant to like for a time span of a week. So you start and 1 week you do the design sprint. At the end of the week you have some results that you can assess and look at and whatever. And he thought, yeah, I'm not in Kiel anyway. Just do this design sprint for 3 weeks. And it turns out like the method isn't really meant to go on for 3 weeks. So it was like such a weird start in the semester because like we sprinted for 3 weeks and we were like, of course it was great because you had a good start with like good quantity of ideas and preparation to go into the semester, but it was also like such a hustle from the very beginning. And that's where we start like we went to the coast here in Kiel where we knew that there was clay laying around and we just kind of got familiar with the material and whatever. And for my bachelor's project, I focused on waste and in that case specifically plastic waste from our households. So we were kind of familiarizing with the materials from the get-go. And then after we kind of got to know what we were wanting to work with, then we started in the semester and then we developed our concepts and ideas. He came from Karlsruhe back to Kiel. We were there like for 2 semesters. And we haven't seen us for quite a long time. So we had a lot to talk about after that time, which we did. And that was kind of like the start for our process and working together, which like led to here actually, because like the weeks after you came back from Karlsruhe, we were like really intense discussions about like everything that we learned in the time that we didn't see each other. And that kind of like formed into this partnership and like fusing together ideas and stuff, and that really carries on till today. And I'm really thankful for you not being here and learning on your own, so we can, and me staying here and learning on my own, and then kind of mingling and working it together, because that really turned out great in my opinion.
And what is this partnership about? Give like a elevator pitch for it first.
Yeah, it's really to be open for collaboration in the way that we did, but also with other people that share information quite freely, like using open source knowledge and these things, and then to start working with really accessible material in the same way, and try to make something from that to kind of show a sustainable approach to making products.
Yeah, it's not only like accessible materials, but like transferring like this thought process also into the product itself to make a product that is also very accessible to the people in the way, because like when you go into the design process and you use open source knowledge or whatever, or shared knowledge to make your own projects or your own products, I think it's also just natural to then share the way that you designed the product, or share the technology to make the product. So not only using materials that are accessible for people, but also using the materials to transform them into a product that can also be remade by other people and not just by us. And that's basically like the whole thing. It's like sharing ideas and sharing knowledge to produce products that can also be shared and can also be produced by basically anyone that wants to. And of course, there always are like technologies involved, but we try to design things in a way that the technology is very accessible as well. Like, or if we use technology, then we try to build, for example, you build a machine and we want to share the way we build the machine so people can build the machine to build the product, and so on and so on.
Do you have like an example of that?
Yeah.
For a product?
You're just your bachelor's project, go on.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the extruder and everything. Schrottplatz, ewig.
So when I was studying in Karlsruhe, I learned this process of extruding ceramics. And it was done with a really big machine. So if you want to really do it in a big industry style, then you take these big machines, which are really expensive and then also not really accessible for the public. And luckily I got a tip from Astrid at our school. She's the facilitator of the wood workshop. Because she's in a Danish-German collective, and through that she met like a ceramicist from Denmark, Niels Wang, and he really openly shared with me his plans for his machine. The extruding process is basically to put clay in a tube and press it out, and then you put a shape in the front. So the extruded clay then afterwards has a shape that you can work with. It's really commonly used in cups to make the string or the handle on there. And so I was really thankful for his advice then. So I could take this knowledge, like how big do I need it to be, how easy it should be to exchange the shape that I put underneath, and all these things. And then I started sourcing the materials that I use for this, because I also in the machine I also wanted to keep this philosophy of harvesting the materials from your surroundings, basically. So I got really lucky that I have metal waste.
A junkyard.
Really close by. So every day when I went to university, I could stop by there, and I just went there like every day until a guy who was always moving the crane, he's like scraping up the whole junkyard in the end. He started to know what I was looking for. So he knew I need a big tube that has like a certain diameter, but this needed a lot of visits that he was supporting me. Then in the end, I'm really thankful for that, because one day it was raining like really heavily, like extreme, and I got there and he had it for me, like 2 really big tubes. But I had no idea how to take them now. They were like
16 centimeters diameter. Because that's exactly what you needed.
Exactly.
And then, I would say 4 millimeter steel.
4 or 5.
And then I don't know,
1 meter 20.
Chunky
really
pipe.
big and heavy pieces. And somehow everyone with the car who I knew was really occupied.
You called me. I remember when you called me and said, I found my metal pipe, and I somehow have to get it to the Muthesius. And I didn't even know it was raining. I was doing something. I know, if I knew what you were going to go through the hour afterwards.
What did you do?
I just took it on the shoulder. And walked
the pouring rain.
And, made as many stops as I needed.
Shit, how heavy was that?
I didn't weigh it, but it was really heavy. It was really...
walking through Kiel.
It was an exercise. But we got really lucky. It cost like €5. It was a lot of steel. And then, I had almost everything then for the machine to start working. And this was really, liberating to me then, to not have to apply to the opening times of the ceramics workshop. I set it up outside, So I could access every day. And when I needed to work, I just could go there and try something out. All I needed to do was then to build this, the dice, the forms for the machine. And then I could immediately start. Yeah,
That's amazing.
Start prototyping basically, because that's the great thing also with ceramics, that if it doesn't work out the way you want it, you could just like mix it together again, throw it in the top of the extruder, and extrude
Very
again.
interesting process.
Yeah.
Let's maybe jump to the beginning of it. So, how did your design journey start? Maybe starting off with you.
Yeah, like in my case, I didn't really have anybody in my family that was really in the design field. So I didn't even really know what it was before I started studying. Before I started studying, I looked into it. But when I was done with school, I was looking for things that I could study, and I was not really sure where I was going to go. And I was thinking about maybe things in the direction of like making jewelry, or being a carpenter, or like these sort of jobs. But then, of course, I was looking on fields where I could go to university and what I was going to do. And I wasn't really sure until one point where my father found out about industrial design, and we didn't really know what it was, but he thought, maybe you should look into this. It seems kind of fitting, because I always, as long as I can remember, I was always like drawing with a pencil at mid-class, whatever. I didn't listen to the teacher, just like drawing whatever. And I always had fun in like the art classes at our school and so on. So I was always very happy when I could be creative in some form. And luckily, where I live, we had like a little shed in our garden, and the one half of the shed was like the space for my mother and her plants, and the other half of the shed was like my little workshop. So from early on, I would kind of got my hands dirty and started working with wood a lot, and doing whatever just came to my mind, and doing like bows and arrows and whatever. And I have to shout out my grandpa, both of my grandpas, because both of them also had like in their cellar, they had like a little workshop. And from very, very early on, I was always together with my grandpas, or especially with one of them, inside of their little workshops, and we were building like spaceships and whatever. So, and I think like the first pocket knife I got, I was like 4 or 5, and I started like carving sticks into like spikes onto sticks. So I always worked with my hands, and I always drew. So when my dad found out about industrial design, we knew, okay, you have to know how to draw, and you have to know how to build stuff. That was basically enough for me to just try it.
Do you know how your father found out about it?
I don't really know how my father found out about industrial design, but someday I was just there. I can remember we were like in a restaurant, and my father pulled out his phone and said, "Look at this, maybe just try it out or whatever." And then I looked into it, and I thought, okay, this might be it, because like I said, you need to draw, you need to conceptualize ideas, and it's very practical. It was very, very nice for me that I knew, okay, I might even go into workshops at university, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And that is like the real thing, and it's the best part, of course. And so from there on, I knew, okay, maybe this is going to be it. And then I went to also like this course where you do your portfolio to apply. It was like 2 weeks in the middle of Germany. I don't really remember where, and I don't really remember the name of the course. Maybe I have to look that up. But that was nice. That's when the first time I knew, okay, I came in touch with people that also wanted to go to art schools and whatever. So it was kind of forming out, like carving out a little path. And then I applied at Muthesius, and luckily I got chosen to participate. And it was like the first try. I was very glad, very lucky that everything worked out fine. Because once I was there from the first semester on, where we guys met, I knew, okay, this is this might really be it. I wasn't even questioning it at that point. Like it took like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months and I knew, okay, this is it.
How was it for you?
For me, I would also say was a lot of guidance in that direction through my family. So my mother was also an art teacher. So when I was younger, I always also drew a lot, and she often made bags or also like creative projects. Even when I now look at what she did, sometimes I see a lot of similarity in the things. For example, like bags from old car seat belts that she did. Still really like them. And so I think through her and also friends of her who took care of us a lot because she couldn't, because she was like in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So they always did like a lot of creative things with us then to draw or to go out and also draw plans or like trying to think of activities for us. So me and my brother, we both did a lot of creative things from early age on, but with him it didn't really stick. For me it worked. So I'm also really thankful for that. So I always knew that I wanted to also do something in the creative field generally, but not really sure then what, and also if you can even make money with this, because this is always the biggest fear, I guess, for people to even decide to go into these creative fields, that you almost always get told like you will not make any money, what are you gonna do something serious. So I got lucky that I early on knew about design. I had one teacher who also told me about this, and then also my stepmother. She got also the design education, but never really worked in that field because she had another job as a flight attendant. But through her, then I knew already, also friends of her, that design exists, and also some work experience there to hear about some stories from that field. And then after I graduated, I worked a lot, so I could have some time and some money also to make my portfolio. This I did then for 1 year after graduating from high school, to work on that portfolio, because I made one really not a good one, I would say. I mean, it's okay looking at this project. It's now it seems a bit funny also, but some also good, I would say. And I applied with this portfolio for Eindhoven and got rejected. So then I had this year I was talking about to refine that portfolio, and that's what I did, like working for money and also then on the portfolio. So then I had the portfolio again 1 year later, and I applied to Kiel, and there was the deadline, I think it was 2 months before Eindhoven. So through that, I wanted to apply for multiple schools at first, but then I did Kiel, got accepted, and then I didn't even try for Eindhoven anymore.
Why did you want to go to Eindhoven originally?
I think I visited with a friend. He also studied there and also just finished now with us in the same semester. It's also quite funny.
Interesting.
He took a bit longer time to study there. And yeah, we both really liked the workshops there. This really spoke to us, and yeah, he had a really industrial design portfolio, I would say. So he was really looking for an industrial design school, which I see more in Muthesius actually. But for me, what was also really approaching in Eindhoven was the freedom of the projects I saw there. That they were also on the borderline of art. This is what spoke to me. But yeah, now we both got the complete different school. And I think it's also really good.
Yeah, it's quite funny
that it happened like this. I think we both had a really good schooling then, because it was not what we wanted or our preconception of design, but we learned the other way or had to find our position then through this.
Maybe before you guys go into the rest of the story, what is your guys' position? Like, what is your design philosophy? Because I imagine it's mostly what you already talked about and what this project stands for. But what is your position? If there's a specific one.
I feared that you were going to ask this question because there's so much going on, like, in my head right now. Because, like I said, like, this is like the first time since October that I kind of have like a break where I can kind of organize my thoughts, really. Because it was so much input and also output, of course, because we had like several projects. But I haven't really got the time to organize my thoughts. So this is very raw. Don't take it like, don't quote me on this thing.
But we can also figure this out.
Sure.
And it's recorded.
Yeah, true. Okay. So I would start by saying that, like, this approachable design aspect, like, or designing things to be approachable for a very broad public, is one very important thing.
Approachable in the sense that it's people can have access to it, or approachable that people don't feel threatened by it, and it's like an approachable design.
I think it has to. The term is open design, so that you can understand how it was produced, and ideally keep it also in a use cycle. That because you can understand how it works, how it was produced, maintain it also and repair it or make it better. I mean, if that's your thing, it's not for everyone also. It's
I think one thing that we really talk about a lot is who really has the access to produce products. And what I mean with approachable is more like accessible for people to produce the products. Because I think a lot of designs today can only be produced by, like, for example, the large industry, like globally working industry. And of course, on the other hand, there are designs that craftsmen or craftspeople produce, which often, of course, like land in a more costly price segment, I would think. Of course, there are like a lot of people that also do craft products that you can afford, of course. But what we're trying to do is land somewhere in between, so the very like accessible form of production that you have with craft often, like, of course, it's not that accessible because it's specialized, and specialized people who are working in these fields for years have the capabilities to produce, for example, a table or whatever. And then there is the IKEA table that no one could produce by their own, that is only being produced by this industry, acting like internationally most of the times, or sourcing materials from other countries perhaps. And if what we try to do is design products in a way that they have like a half industrial touch to them. So like the benefit from industrial production, of course, is the low price. Like that's like the main argument for industrial production, if you ask me, is that products can be produced so cheap that a lot of people can afford them, and so they are accessible, or accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure.
And then again, with the cheap price, sadly, a lot of times also comes cheap manufacturing, or in the worst case, you have like unfair conditions in which products are being produced. And still, the aspect of being cheap is very important. And that sometimes I think, or I feel like that's what is missing in crafts products, because they are so valuable, because the person spends so much time in crafting this product that it can only be quite expensive, relatively speaking. So designing products that can be produced in a cheap way by craftspeople and not by the industry, with like semi-industrial forms of production, is kind of what we're going for.
Yeah.
So a lot of people can produce these products, maybe even you and me, even though we're not like a professionalized or specialized craftsman. And we're not the industry, of course, that has the expensive machines or like the infrastructures to produce super cheap and super effectively. But for example, what you did with your extruder that you built for your bachelor's project is you use the technology extruding, which is also being used in the large industrial scale all the time by huge machines. And the benefits of this technique is that you can do like serial production, because you have one shape that you put in front of the machine, you press the ceramic matter through this shape, and then you have a repetitive process that you always produce the same piece, which is not like, which is also being used in crafts, but a lot of time it is more steps for making like a serial product. Like,
sure.
And that's basically just one step, like a typical industrial process, and transforming that into a small scale where you as just one person, like Ben did like in his bachelor semester, just has a machine with a lever that you pull, and it turns and it makes like the repetitive shape is like a very small series of the repeating shape. And then you have to, as we did, then you also have to go in there and work with your hands a little bit on it. But it's not like the whole thing is produced by hand, or the whole thing is manufactured in a complex process. The whole thing is manufactured in a very streamlined and very approachable process that you don't have to be specialized or professional to do the same job as we did. Everybody can do this. Like, it's not really hard. All you need is basically this machine that is also not really hard to produce. Of course, you have to know how to weld and whatever, but there are a lot of people in our surroundings that have the capabilities to make these tools. And with the tools, a lot of people could make these products. And this is kind of like what's going on in our heads when we think about it.
So that is like the main thing, that you create products for craftsmen, or made by craftsmen, or small scale operations that are able to be produced in an industrial way, so they can be cheap, but also by small operations.
I think it's also looking for, because there is, for example, in ceramics, it's a new way of people that work with it suddenly. Using, for example, a ceramic 3D printer. It's a really nice example for that, because it's using a really old technique of coiling, like putting the roll on top each layer and to build up the object like that. And people are now just transferring this really old technique with the new possibilities that they can really easily access through the internet. And I think through that there's like a new wave of designers that don't even necessarily have to be ceramics, but they can produce ceramic products. So I think it's there are a lot of new questions where design or how much or where the border is between then the designer and the crafts person.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it can be free because a lot of specialization which you do, it can really limit what you will do with your life, and it can also be really harmful from a bodily perspective, like working in a workshop all day and there's loud machines, there's wood dust, you can get cancer from this, your ears will get damaged and everything. So I think it might be a good idea to let people jump around a bit more, and that you can, because most people that are interested in the crafts, I would say, it's not only interested for one really specific thing, but often also just the process of creating objects and making these things. I'm really thankful for the maker scene.
It's super interesting.
And I think, like to your question that you just asked, it is kind of like trying to mobilize like what is already there, because we live like in a very special time, of course. Like a lot of these techniques that are existing for long times, or maybe just came up for like a couple of decades ago, like 3D printing, whatever, are very, very accessible today. And now we have like the crisis that we are in today with like all these global problems, and there is an industry causing a lot of these problems. So in any case, the industry has to change somehow. And there is also like a space, I think, that isn't really like the potential of like this space in between the large scale industry and a very small scale craftsmanship. This has so much potential for the future, I think, because if you design for this niche, just by designing products for this niche, I think more products in this niche can be produced. And now, like for example, in the industrial design Studiengang, in the studies of industrial design, you learn a lot of times, at least, of course, some people do like furniture, which is more like a crafts area, but a lot of time you learn to design products that can only be produced by a large industry.
True.
So what you're doing is you're kind of you're only designing for one specific way of production. And the thing is, if you design a product that can be produced like without the industry, this doesn't mean the industry can produce the products. In most cases, the industry can produce the product anyway, or even better. But if you only design for the industry, there is no way any other player can produce the product as well. But if you design a product, for example, for little makers, like local makers or local craftsmen or whatever, if they can produce products, then the industry can produce the products as well, because it has the capabilities. But the craftsmen don't have the capabilities of the industry.
Just thinking,
Sure.
What is the end goal of it?
The end goal is to enable decentralized production in a way, way larger scale than it is possible today.
Okay.
because we have such a centralized production in most of the consumer goods that we're surrounded in, that we totally lost the contact to the products that we use every day. Like, we don't know where the materials come from. We don't know who produced this product. We don't know if the product was produced in a fair way, because there's so much in transparency.
That's true.
And by designing products that can be built in your environment by whoever, and this can be like a small industry, this can be a craftsman, this can even be like a maker or whatever, then you have things that pop up from around your area. And if they are exportable, then this is a potential path that I see that can strengthen decentralized production, which I strongly believe in, that this is important for the future.
So if we try to sum it all up, what is your philosophy?
It's to design then for a decentralized production, in which we have a way stronger connection, hopefully, between people, products, and materials. To enable longer life cycles, small delivery ways, all sorts of things like that. And what also hopefully comes with it is then interactions between the people who make the things and people who use the things, because then you could also have the chance to have the product. If you have a question, you can immediately go to a person. How can I recycle this or repair it, use it longer, or optimize it to my wishes?
Yeah, that's a very interesting concept and philosophy.
But that's the thing. I mean, I think it's a really, or almost a utopian vision then.
It kind of is, but it's also like, it's a little bit more of a way towards it.
Yeah,
right. Like,
that's what we are trying to do with all the small designs.
Because it's also like, it also already works in the system.
That is one really, 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 really nice side effect, by the way, that I totally enjoy, is if you design products that are so easy to produce that the broad margin of people in our society can produce them as well, you always end up with a product that you can produce yourself.
Yeah.
And if you need a machine to produce the product, you design the machine to produce the product. And in the end, you have a new machine in your inventory that you can use to build products, like the extruder that Ben built.
Yeah.
And if we want to, like, for example, we definitely want to dabble into the 3D printing of ceramics. And we're probably going to buy a used 3D printer that we're going to modify into a ceramic printer. Right now, it's just like a normal, I think, an Ender or whatever printer. Yeah. An old one that's been running for 10 years and still working fine and great. And we want to modify it to a 3D printer to make products in that form. And then we have like another part of our inventory. Or, for example, we just produced like ashtrays out of aluminum, and we went to the workshops at the Muthesius and collected the scraps that were left over from aluminum, brought them to the Afrade, another workshop of the Muthesius, because we heard there is a new oven to melt metals. So we wanted to learn how to make casted product, because like casting can be very easy if it's not such a complex product. And in the end, you produced another product, and so on.
And what did you produce those for? Because that leads into the next big projects you guys work on.
Yeah, right. We didn't even come to that point. We were talking about Milan, but there was something else going on afterwards. What do you want to talk about?
Luckily, through Reza Gadiani, who is facilitating the video studios, and also he's giving courses at our university. And he asked us if we would like to organize a small gallery during the Kieler Woche as an attempt to have a cultural program besides the drinking and eating at Kieler Woche. It's the main goal for that.
Maybe first off, what is Kieler Woche?
Kiel, for people who don't know, in Kiel,
A lot of people, even in Germany, don't know. Like, if you talk to someone, you have no idea.
Of course. It's an annual event. It's 1 week in the summer in Kiel, where just people go nuts for 1 week straight.
Yeah.
And
I think it started off as one of the biggest sailing regattas ever.
Yeah, right.
But now it's not that anymore. It's like basically like a big festival thing throughout the whole city. Everyone is drinking. Everyone is people from all over Europe come here just to get wasted. It's a little
the
crazy.
sailing event, of course, still takes place, but then there's like this parallel event, and that's basically like the Oktoberfest of the North.
I think people can picture it quite well.
But it's not just like one tent. It's like, if you know how Kiel looks like, you know that Kiel is a city by the sea, which has like this kind of like a fjord, maybe you can say.
Big fjord and canal.
Yeah, and along this one coastline of this fjord, that's where a lot of the Kieler Woche takes place. That's where like all of these food trucks and other things are being placed, or like stands where you can buy drinks, foods. Also some little maybe crafted stuff, but not really that much. It's basically, and there are a lot of music stages and events, and it is a fun time, of course. But what we were trying to do is kind of trying to carve out a little space at the Kiellinie, like this coastline, for culture, for arts and design, for arts and design and stuff like that. And we knew this is not the reason people come to the Kieler Woche, but we did it anyway. And it was a lot of hard work, a lot of fun, a lot of stress, definitely. But it kind of worked out at the end.
What exactly did you guys do there? Like, what do I have to imagine if you say like a place for culture?
At first we did an open call. So we just put posters so people could reach out to us, and we were just asking, if you have anything that you produced or painted, stuff like that. If you want to sell it, we might have a place, because we just had this 100 square meters square that we now should fill with something, and then a lot of people really sent us stuff, so we were really we didn't know what to expect, and then we had a lot that we should deal with.
Too much, actually.
Too much. Exactly.
There's a lot of interest, which of course was super amazing to experience, that people were actually interested in this event that we were organizing, and it was the first time we were organizing anything like this. We just came from Milan, and now there was like the next exhibition that was going to be planned, but this time we were the one that was going to plan it, and we didn't really know what was going on, and we just had to figure it out on the go.
But then we got a lot of nice help also, like from communications designers such as Karen and Paul, and also Luisa, Lucas, who helped us with the scenography to come up with a plan for that. We had to do a bit everything, so it was every time we could shift some workforce or give responsibility in that sense to another person who was really good. It felt really good to build this small team and have this help.
It was a really nice experience.
What did it all end up in?
So it ended up in a gallery right at the coastline. There's like a building, it's called Seeburg, and there was one room that we had. This was 400 square meters where we could do a gallery. So we filled it with, first of all, with the scenography that we worked out with Louisa. And because the event also had like an after party every night, at least that's what the plan was. And in the end, besides like 2 days, there also was like an after party in the same room every day for 10 days, I think. Kind of crazy. And I wouldn't really do it that way if I had the chance to do it again. But so we had to make some modular scenography to which we can like set up in the morning, leave there for the afternoon, and then take it down in the evening. So in the night there was the after party, and once we figured that out, like the scenography, we put like paintings. A lot of paintings were there. It was from the art department of our school. A lot of people came to us. I think it was like the most people were actually artists.
Most works.
Yeah, most works. And some of the works were from the industrial design, some from the communication design. And we built these tables and walls, and the room had windows in the front and the back. So it was really, really hard to hang up things because there were no walls. There were just windows. So we had to kind of build walls.
Yeah. We also could not screw anything inside. So that at first we wanted to hang everything just in the middle, and would have also looked really nice, I think. But they just said no.
The circumstances were not very beneficial. But then at the end it kind of worked out, and it looked kind of nice. It looked like a pop-up store, kind of. And since it was a gallery and we wanted to sell these arts, we also had the plan, like we had a catalog, which Carl and Mathieu did, where you even had like the prices of of all the works. And then once it like opened at 1 p.m., it was open till 7 p.m. And during that time, we just hoped that people would come inside, which unfortunately not so many people did. But that was also due to the very, very weird outside space that we were confronted with. It was very hard to get inside the building and so on. And we didn't really manage to prepare the outside appearance from the room.
So what did you guys learn from that experience? Preparing an exhibition, and some things working out pretty good, but all things not so much.
I would say a really good takeaway is that things never work out as you plan. And like it was really, really tough actually like the first weekend of the Kieler Woche where the exhibition started, we even had one day where we didn't even manage to set up the exhibition because we were just like 2 people. We didn't even have stuff to clean the room from the party that happened like the night before. So we just said, okay, fuck it. Today the gallery's closed. And so still like on the next day we were better prepared and everything worked out for the rest of the week. No problem at all. But the things often really don't work out the way as you imagine. And
this was a heavy day. Also, Konrad's parents came and could not see it.
That was exactly the day my parents were in Kiel, and we had to decide not to set up the gallery, so they were there and couldn't see it. And I really wanted to show them what we were even working on because they didn't know. But unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity. But however, we documented everything. So I have good footage that I can show my parents. But
also important.
Also very important. Also very, very important thing in general. Always document your work in a proper manner. So because that's the stuff that you're going to show in the future. That's the stuff that gets you, jobs or into university or interesting contacts and whatever. You have to show what you do, of course. So even now, if you haven't even started studying and you have creative projects, start documenting them. That's a really good takeaway. However, from that experience at Platform 2, like the exhibition, even if this stuff doesn't work out as planned, it's always not such a big deal just to make a compromise and kind of work it out on the spot, because a lot of things can't even be planned anyway, and the best solution often is just the one that just works out at the moment.
I think it's also something we had to learn is how to communicate with so many people.
Definitely. Definitely.
This time is hard work.
Also, if you want to enable collaboration through that, you have to be like really direct, I would say, and make statements that people can interact with, so that they can intervene when they want to.
Do you have an example?
I mean, the simplest one is just to. It's also when you are taught about helping people who are on the street to directly speak to a person and say, "Can you help me?" Or just to be really direct, I would say.
To ask for help if you need help is such an important thing. Right. And not to be afraid to ask for help, because in the end, so many people gladly offer their help if you have, even if you don't have something to offer. I think most of the people are just down to help you. But an awesome experience in this case was that we had something to offer, and I mean, of course, it totally makes sense, and it's nothing really phenomenal but to get this experience, or this learning. But if you have something that you bring with you when you ask for help or ask for cooperation or whatever, there's always something that you can work together on. And if you have nothing that you can share, it's harder to get started. But so many people didn't even question anything. They were just, let's go. And because we knew, we had a room and we wanted to do a gallery, we asked the ASTA of the university if they could support us with a little bit of money, and they said, that's okay, we can give you like 500 to 1,000 euros. And so we had a little bit of a budget, and once we had that, it was like so easy to get people on board. Like, you had something, and it doesn't have to be a gallery or whatever, it can be like a little project or whatever, and if you ask people and you have something to work together on, and most of the people are just kind and want to help if you know them and if they know you. And even if they don't, that's no problem. Like Matthias Wittwald from the Afrade, he was such an helpful guy, and we just met them through this project because we wanted to produce these ashtrays from aluminum. And we knew the oven was there, and Matthias Wittwald, we never spoke to him before, but we came there with like a bike, with our bikes and a trailer. No, what is it called?
Wagon.
Like a wagon, on the bike, and it was like full of aluminum scrap, and we even had like aluminum foil balls and beer cans and stuff, and we just came there, and the thing tumbled over halfway. It was like such a funny first meeting, because we're here, we have aluminum, let's melt this stuff. And I think because we had something there, it was just like a fun first interaction, and he was totally on board. He said, okay, your guys are motivated, let's do this stuff. He's a super motivated guy anyway, but I think it's great if you have something at least that you can share it together, and then with that in hand and you go to ask for help, I think a lot of people are down to help.
And were there any other key takeaways or learnings you had during your studies or until then?
The creative process in itself, I didn't really know that you could structurize it like the way that we learn it during the studies. Because before I studied, of course, I worked creatively. Like I said, I drew a lot, or I was in the workshop, I was doing wood turning or little carpentry projects and whatever. And most of the time I had an idea to make something, and maybe I sketched it down or drew some measurements or whatever, and then I tried to build it. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it failed, but a lot. And if it failed, maybe I tried it a second time or so. But often I just started a new project, and I thought this was creative working, and of course it was. But a great thing that I learned during my studies was that there's so much you can do about the creative working. There's so you can use methods, and you can structurize this process, and this is you can really harness all of this stuff that happens naturally and kind of organize it in a way that is productive to you. And one very, very important takeaway that I learned along the way is that a lot of, for example, inspiration while you work doesn't only come from inside, and you're not like a machine that sits there and tries to solve the problem, and once you think about it for long enough, the answer is there. But it's very important that the surrounding from where you are is also part of the process, and the people that surround you and the stuff that surrounds you is very, very, can be very stimulating, or it can't be very stimulating. So I think a good advice would be to be mindful of the surrounding that you try to be creative in, because a lot of stuff doesn't even come from what's going on inside your head, but what's going on around you and what your head does with it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree a lot. And I think what is also often the problem of these creative processes, or what gets you stuck often, is being so much in your head and trying to find a final solution, or to focus on the end of the process, and not to then go, or you try to jump ahead by not paying attention to the surrounding you're in at that very moment. For example, when working with clay, what the material does in front of you, and to incorporate that. So it's really the process that leads you to the thing, and not your idea of the end product, what will form the design process. But the design process.
I think that's
Trust the process.
I think that's a super important point, because especially in the beginning, a lot of us started out with, I know what I want to do, and I will do this now. And we were not informed by any user feedback or any research we did or whatever. It was just, I think this is I am the designer, and I think this is the answer to this other question.
And even after a design process is finished, which it never really is, but if there is a result, most of the times there might even be a different result that would work out fine as well, or worse or better, or along the way there are so many paths that you can take that isn't singular. It isn't really a singular end result that is the only one possibility, or your first idea. Often the first ideas are very good, but along the way there are so many other routes you can take, and just to be fine with it and to be open with it and to follow along all of these steps that happen, and to be aware that things happen around you during the process all the time, and being sensitive to these little things that happen all around you, and then to look which one has potential, which is interesting, and where does this take me. That's the fun part, because I think what you said, with trusting the process and trusting, for example, materials that are not trusting, but just being open to what materials do while you work with them, and not forcing them into something that your first idea was. We had so many times where we were doing ceramics for Milan. The clay just did what it wanted to do, and at first we had the idea, okay, this is the shape that we want, and we drew it like in CAD software. Yeah. We water jetted it in the workshop. We put the dice, is it called, right?
Yeah, the die. Yeah.
The die, okay, underneath the extruder, and then we extruded. We pulled the lever, and the clay did something, but not what we wanted it to do. It would do like turns, or it ripped apart. So, okay, then you have to take a step back, say, okay, I don't know what is even going on. And till the end, there were like parameters that we still couldn't control, like how stiff is the clay, or what's
how
the
it gets stiff,
or what's the moon phase. We were starting to get spiritual about it. So like it was so weird, man. The clay did whatever it wanted, and we just had to accept it, and we have to work with the material and see what it does and be fine with what it does, and then follow along what we learned from there, and not what we thought in the first place.
Yeah. During my bachelor, I had the same thing, and I remember I knew I had like 3 more days to finalize this the die, the last die, because you have to let it dry, and then there has to be this date where it can be fired, because all the ceramicists fire at the same time to save energy or all these things. And I was just standing there with one die that I thought would be the final one. And of course I visualized a whole, like a whole array of how this product will work, how I will show it. And this is the way it's going to look in the final end presentation. Everything really followed through, and I thought I understood. But then the clay just said, no, this is not possible. You can't do it like this. And in the end, I think the product that then came out is a lot more convincing than what I tried to do with my head through this whole vision. And it just worked out better than when I trusted the thing, the material and the technique.
Yeah. And I think this is a process that I hope actually that this is going to be like a lifelong learning in the end, because you always fall back into thinking, okay, I know what is going on, but then there's something that you didn't expect, and something's different, and then just to accept that this happens all the time, and that this can lead to new ideas or new solutions that might be even better than what you thought of in the first place. It's just, I think, a very healthy mindset, and it can be very productive if you incorporate it into your design process and you don't like exclude it. And I think that's the fun part actually, because if you're it's more like you're in like a passive standpoint, and I think you can really, if you want to, you can really design stuff without even designing the thing really, but just designing this surrounding of where this thing is being birthed. Like if you take care of who you're working with, like I know, okay, I can work with Ben or with Kevin or with Kave. I would like to work with you together sometime, and I know, okay, these people are part of the process, and if they are good people and I trust them and they trust me, then this is going to work out. And then we have, like, for example, the material, and before thinking, okay, what is the product, you can think, okay, let's see what the material does and what we can make out of it, and what the ideas of the other people I'm working together with also shape the product. So you can be really passive about what you're designing if you just are cautious of what are the influences on the design, what are the influences.
Like a structured process, what you said, that this just runs, and then we see what happens from this and how we can take it further.
So let's go back to your key moments and takeaways of your way up till now.
Yeah.
Basically your studies.
Yeah, key moments during study.
Yeah.
I think for me it started already with getting declined for the first time. Yeah. Because I really took it personally first, and I was like, maybe this is not for me, maybe I'm not the person inside of this. And I think through all the discussions then you had, or when you have a person telling you like, what is this here? What are you doing? You always formulate a bit more your position, and through that then you really start to learn or to improve. And it's okay to make something that is not accepted by another person. And, they just learn through that. That was tough.
Actually, true. From the very beginning, like a key moment definitely was realizing, okay, the art school with the workshops and this industrial design, the industrial design studies, that they exist and it's a real thing and it's so much fun, and this is studying. Like that was a really key moment for me to just realize, okay, what is going on? This doesn't feel like university. Like I imagined it to be kind of dry and harsh and kind of boring, but in the end it was just like wild ride, super fun, and so many cool things were going on all the time. And the art school was amazing. It was an amazing place to spend like this period of your life. And but I know this is not what you were asking for.
Key moments.
Key moments. And the key moment that I was already thinking about, that we were talking about, was in the 5th semester, where all of us together had a really, really strange semester.
Yeah.
With
a fun one.
A fun one.
But also a strange one.
Crazy one, yeah. With Frank Jakob. It was the interface design semester in the industrial design bachelor, 5th semester, and the 3rd prof that we met along the way. And for me, because like for context, in the semester we were all of us were working together on an exhibition that we wanted to make at the end of the semester about living in Germany as a Jewish person, because it was an anniversary year, I think 2021. That was like 1,700 years of Jewish life in Germany, and I think the Ministry of Education reached out to our professor Frank Jakob and asked him if he wanted to make a project on this subject. And he said, let's go, let's try this. None of us were Jewish, so we didn't really know what was going on, being a Jew in Germany. So he reached out to Helene Braun, who is an expert on this subject. She herself, of course, is Jewish. And she, at the time, I'm not sure if she's done now, but she was being prepared to become a rabbi. I don't know.
I think
the English
she was on track to be like the youngest or the only Jewish female rabbi in Germany or something like that.
Yeah. It was something special, like special person, definitely. And she was with us via Zoom calls during the semester. And it was such a wild ride, because like all the semester we were all just discussing like all the time. Yeah. Like from the first day till like a month or 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
3 weeks, 2 weeks, or like before the end of the semester. We were all just every week meeting and discussing what makes sense, what could be concepts that could work out for an exhibition. And we had like a huge list of like 30 plus ideas for exhibition objects, and at the end we just picked out or voted out the ones that we wanted to pursue and the ones we didn't. And it was such a different approach to designing than we had like the semesters before. And this is for me the key element, because I had like this moment when I realized it made like click, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Like in the first 2 semesters we had Bettina Möllring, our professor, and the the 3rd and 4th semester we had Martin Poster, or prof. And then we met Frank. And all of these professors designed in a completely different way. And until that point, I always thought that we're learning this one method, like this one way of designing. Like this is the design process and this is what you're going to learn. But then as we met Frank and there was like this third way of designing, I realized, okay, maybe there is not one way. And in the end, there are just 3 designers with their own workflow, with their own like design process, which they share openly with us. Yeah. So we can get in touch with it and we can learn from them. But it's not one thing that they're trying to educate. It's their way and we can come in contact with it. And then what we're trying to do in the end is trying to find our way. And this was like the click. Like this is when I realized, okay, it's not just one study or one method or whatever. It's just trying to figure out what works out for me and learning from people that have figured it out for them.
Well said.
That's really nice. Yeah, I think it hits the nail on what the design studying means. Yeah, for sure. And I really like that we had this time to have that, because I think it also takes a long time. Yeah. But if you can make it, if you have it, that's really, really nice. Because now it almost feels like a automated process. I feel like that you have a certain filter that keeps certain things that you see or experience and filters out other things, and then you just have this stack of ideas that you can then transform into an idea or object. I mean, for now it's easy to say that because we are not really in the industry right now. We are still like after graduates, so I say. It's a bit idealistic, but I hope that this way of thinking and working just transfers to also work in the industrial context.
After we went over so many things you guys done, give some pieces of advice or some things that helped you to other people listening.
Always have something to sketch with you, because when you talk about ideas, it's impossible to get across, to bring across the idea that's in your head without sketching.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a waste of time. If you don't have something to sketch, if you explain an idea to, for example, when we talk about products or concepts or whatever, it takes like a few seconds, and then there's something we have in front of us where we can sketch. Because if we talk without sketching, it's just always like we don't.
It can also be productive,
it can really be productive because so many great ideas have came up because we misunderstood each other. So it also could be a method if you want to, just talking without sketching, because you just misunderstand each other all the time, which can lead to new ideas. Maybe that's a method. But if you want to just be more streamlined, take out a pencil and just draw what you think. And it doesn't matter if you're good at drawing. It's just better than talking.
Yeah. Yeah. What also helps with that is using like a pencil that is really, like a marker or something that is really finite, and the thing will just be there. You have to be quick and just show it. You have never been in this process. Maybe it's a bit not understandable. But for me, what really helped me was to try to formulate a vision of a future that is like ideal, or to form really utopia, and then to try to prove with the thing you are designing all the implications that it would have in this world, and if it makes sense in this, and then like when you really maybe have found this thing, try to go step by step towards this, or to then, because once you have this really perfect vision, you can also really quickly decide if what you're designing right now is helpful for that, or is not going in that direction. I really like that it guides your creative vision then in a specific way, or then you have this figured out, and then you just have to see. Do make sense.
Yeah, I think it does.
So for me, it was a really helpful tool to try to formulate like perfect working conditions and everything.
I think it totally makes sense. We talked about this, of course, and you even wrote like your
all the sentence all the time, please. We talked about it.
We talked about it. If you formulate like this utopia and you have a product or whatever that exists in this utopia, this might mean it doesn't work in the reality, but there is a margin in between, and I think then you just have to break it down so far that it starts to work in reality. And if you end up at this like sweet spot, like it might be more towards the reality, more towards the utopia, but try to find the sweet spot, because what you end up with is something that pulls toward a direction, and then it pulls towards the utopia, and that's a really nice thing, because you have like, if you formulate this, then you have like this category in which these ideas exist, and if they work in the utopia and don't work in the reality, just break them down so much that they kind of start to work in reality. And if then they really can be implemented, and for example they can be produced and are used, then this is something that almost like works in both worlds, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
I just had another key moment that I realized, because it was in the same project. When I tried to explain it in English, I somehow completely missed the right words, I feel like. So it's super important, the language that you use to communicate your ideas. And I'm still really, especially in English, struggling with this, I would say. But German can also be really complex. And I'm really lucky to have this man on the side, because he's really good with it, to formulate ideas is super understandable, and thanks. Yeah.
Or try to include like a heart or something.
Edit
Okay, I think that basically concludes it, except the last part of this, which is the rapid fire questions. So,
rapid fire questions.
there will be a series of questions which you have to answer as quickly as possible.
Talk shit behind my back. No.
This feels like a proper interview.
Like a one-on-one.
Gonna be crazy questions.
No, it's not. Don't worry. Favorite design tool?
Rhino.
Let's say Rhino.
Biggest misconception about design?
I think the confusion with communication design. When I explain to people, they often think, you're doing like posters.
What I thought about design when I started studying was the biggest misconception about design that I had. It was, what I imagined I was going to do, and I did the complete opposite. I thought design was styling. Like, I thought design was not caring about what's going on inside, just making the outside pretty. That was the biggest misconception of design. Yeah.
Favorite design?
Sebastian Bergner. Because they are just really so much fun designs.
In a like very sophisticated way.
Yeah.
Neri Oxman, because she's just fascinating what she does.
Favorite product?
Bike, I would say.
A pocket knife, like the Victorinox red foldable pocket knife. Love that one.
Biggest weakness as a designer?
Yeah, I think not communicating well enough.
I always struggle with time management and like the organization that you don't end up doing night shift at the end of projects, and it's so common. I know so many people that struggle with this, but I definitely am one of them.
Where are you in design in 10 years?
Hopefully in a nice collective.
In some sort of studio that lets me work freely, creatively, and with great people.
And your ultimate goal in design?
To make visionary products that have a good social and ecological impact.
Building up some sort of center or whatever where a lot of people can participate in design activities. Like this might be the studio, like the studio that I was talking about, or this might be something else. But for example, like a shared workshop or something where, like what we're talking about, like decentralized production and so on, can actually happen and can be spread around, that people work on their own, but if they need help, they can come there, for example. This is like the ultimate goal would be really, really practicing what you preach. And what we're preaching, you've already heard, we want to kind of help to get the decentralized production kind of running and building up towards a future where more local materials and local production can happen, or local materials are used. And I definitely would love to have some materialized or some real thing that you can see and get. Like when you see this and you say, okay, this is it, like this is working, and this like the proof that this is not just theory, but this can really happen. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Nicolai, thank you for having us.